You good today?
I'm very good, sir. Thank you so much.
Having said that, I believe
FM. I'm glad to be back on the show.
We are also excited. We are happy to have you back on the show.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Me, Power of the Mind. So far, quickly, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. Banna ba define success ka tsela tse di farologaneng. Ke le ke inopola se se ka kabetse thata mo gompieno jana.
Yeah, that's very important.
Aha, right. Ya re tra go tsena jalo sentle mo gone mo tsatsing la gompieno re mo happy. A re go le jalo tshoda go rotlo ithubaganye sentle gape ya tsatsing la gompieno, the series that we have here today. Yeah, the Power of the Mind.
Yes, but it's botle ke le dumedisa gape. I think, as you are touching on Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, what I've been doing for the past few months was to also just look at their relationship with each other.
Yes.
They relate very well. And if you look at everyone else that is their fan, would probably expect them to be at loggerheads with each other because they are competing and all of that. But because each of them has a very good understanding of what is it that they want out of their own industry, they, to some degree, even if there is a level of competition, but there's no bitterness that's generated because each of them is actually achieving what they want to achieve. And I think for me, that becomes a very good lesson because it shows you that when you have defined success for yourself, you don't need to compete with anyone. You don't need to do what other people are doing to prove that you are also successful. You can still do what you want to do and be happy that you are successful in your own space without having to compete. And you will find that, people might be in the same type of business, but they are doing it differently and they are close. They are not fighting. They are not, trying to sabotage each other because they understand that what I'm trying to achieve with this business is different from what that other person is trying to achieve. And that becomes important because it also fosters an attitude of unity and love and peace amongst people. And I believe that's how it was originally intended, so that people can live together in harmony. People can understand that I don't have to do what you are doing for me to prove that I'm also doing better. I don't have to wear the clothes that you are wearing for me to prove that I'm doing better. I don't have to drive the car that you are driving for me to prove that I'm doing better. I can be me and still be happy that I'm doing better, enjoying the things that I love without having to compete with you. And this is important because if you think about how the mind then gets affected by how a person thinks, you will realize that a lot of negativity is generated when a person tries to compete with another person and they feel like they are not achieving. Or they feel like they are not measuring up to the level of that other person. That creates a problem because ultimately the one who's not doing better is going to hate the one that's doing okay.
One way or the other.
Yeah, and I always say to people, you go to school and you leave Kasi and you go and study and you get a good job. You buy yourself a nice car in a mansion in town. And then Kadi weekend you are back in Kasi car, your nice car. What you need to understand is that when you come back with that car, your main aim for doing that is to actually motivate. It's not for you to get there and feel like bosso ya di bosso and people must worship you because you drive the nicest car, and that shift in your mind helps you because even wherever where there are other people doing better than you, your attitude is already adjusted. Even when you are looking at them, instead of you saying I want what they have, you are instead inspired to say I also want to do better than what I'm doing right now. And this is important because it helps people to then say people who are doing less than me are there to encourage me to say I can be a motivation to them. And people who are doing better than me are there to also motivate me to say I can do better than where I am right now. But in all of that, like I said even the last time, that you always need to balance ambition with fulfillment. To make sure that you are never that kind of person who's never satisfied about achieving things. You always make sure that you are satisfied and you can balance that with fulfillment. Because if you are ambitious, you will continue being ambitious and nothing will stop you. Because once you get this, you want the next one. Once you get this, you want the next one. And you are never going to be happy. And that is very dangerous for the mind. Because then as a person, you are never actually at the point of your life where you can be satisfied and be comfortable and be grateful. That's one aspect I think even in our society today, it's missing. People don't have gratitude anymore. People never sit down and actually take the time to say, I am grateful for where I am. Yes, I might want more in my life, but I want to be grateful for where I am. And when you are doing that, what people don't realize is that gratitude gives your brain a rest.
Oh.
Because your brain works all the time.
Okay.
But when you take a moment to be grateful, your brain takes a rest. And you are feeding your brain what I can call positive energy.
Yes, sir.
You are giving your brain a break, because sometimes you also get to a point where you are strained and you are tired because you are always planning, you are always solving problems, you are always doing this, you are always doing that. There are times in your life where you need to just sit back and just look around you and say, yes, I have lived for the past. I just heard you guys now talking about 51 days.
Yes.
And one is saying 51 days is long. The other is saying no, but it's not too long.
Yeah.
And look, I can tell you right now, looking at things and how things are happening, this is going to be a very fast year.
True.
Mark my words. You will see when we talk around December,
Yeah.
you will say, oh, it was just January now. It's already December. Because, seasons and times are also prescribed by how things are happening. And you will realize that, for a lot of people, did not even feel January this year. A lot of people expected January to be one of those years that are those months that are difficult, but it was not. It was fairly normal for a lot of people. People were enjoying similar things they were enjoying in December, even in this January. It shows you how unique the year is. Now, there are times where even in some years, where even God himself gives us a break.
Yes, sir.
And he gives you a break. But because we don't realize these things, all we do is to make memes and we laugh about it. And we don't realize that it's something to actually be grateful of. And look back and sit down and say, God, I'm actually grateful. For the first time in 5 years, I'm having good January.
Wow.
And gratitude becomes important because it helps your mindset. Gratitude, people who have gratitude, let me tell you the power of gratitude.
Yes, sir.
Gratitude attracts powerful people.
Wow.
Gratitude attracts resources in your life. When you are a person who is thankful, let me ask you a question. If you've got 5 people that you are always giving stuff to, and then out of that 5, one of them always says thank you whenever you do it. Thank you whenever you do it. How are you going to feel?
It's a tough one, eh?
Even when you have little and you can't take care of all of them, the chances are the little that you have, you might give to the one that says thank you. Because it seems as if their gratitude says to you, I needed this so much and I'm grateful that you managed to come through for me. And that's what gratitude actually does. It makes the person who's the giver, who's the supporter, who's the one that's standing with you to help you, realize that, this person is actually thoughtful and is actually, they can see what I'm doing for them.
Wow.
And this is important because, even Lemoma Tumbaba Acha today, young people don't know how to say thank you. They don't know how to say thank you. You know how many young people I bump into sometimes, brat suppose, 5 rantanyana, how fetsa ho monaya, they don't even say thank you.
Yo.
And you realize, it's a wasted effort. I'm giving this to a person who does not even know how to reciprocate by just saying something. And it becomes important. And that is why sometimes, I always say to people, the Bible says, blessed is the hand that gives. But what we don't realize is that when a person gives to you, it doesn't matter what they give you. You can also give back. How? In gratitude.
Wow.
So your hand can also be blessed because you are also giving gratitude back.
Nice.
And it's important. It's a very important principle. It's like if someone takes me out for lunch, I must make it a point or at some point I find a way to also take them out for lunch.
Reciprocate.
If someone does something nice for me, I must find a way to say at some point I'm going to do something nice for him or for her. It's important. Gratitude is one of the most critical mental, I think, spaces that we need to be in our lives. That every once in a while in your life, you need to take a back seat and say, let me find things to be grateful for. And then you will realize that sometimes there's no reason for you to be stressing about too much because you've got so much going for you.
Yeah.
So much going for you. But we are blinded from that. And that is why people end up putting pressure on themselves. They are depressed, they are stressed, they have tension, they have all sorts of things simply because they just keep wanting more and they don't realize that they have time. They need to make time to sit and actually be grateful of what they are getting. So I think, as we are talking about the law of the mind, one of the things that I want to just touch on is that I said last week that nothing manifests in the natural unless you have thought about it.
Yes, sir.
Whether you are aware of this principle or not, that's how things are designed and that's how things are working. Now, I want to give you an example to show you how good God is to us. God designed your mind to reject negative things.
Okay.
And I'll show you. whenever you tell your brain not to do something, unless you have trained it over a period of time to accept that it can't do something, whenever you tell your brain not to do something, your brain does exactly what you tell it not to do.
True.
If I can say to you right now, close your eyes for a few seconds, and I say, by no means, do not think about the animal I'm going to tell you about now.
Yeah.
You see, I'm telling you not to think about it. And I'm saying, do your best not to think about it.
Yeah.
And I say, do not think about an elephant. As soon as I said elephant,
It comes to your mind.
even if you try hard, you will either see the trunk of an elephant, so you probably saw the tail or you saw the tusks.
Yeah.
You try very hard not to, but because your brain is not trained not to say, I can't do this, you cannot do this, your brain will always do what you tell it not to do. Because your brain has been trained not to have limits. And because it has trained not to have limits, this is a very powerful tool that we can use, because when it comes to us having imaginations and good thoughts about ourselves, that means we can go as far as possible.
Wow.
We can go as far as possible. You can have your wildest imaginations that can transcend anything you have ever thought about yourself. You can see yourself doing things that you've never seen anyone else in your life do.
Tremendous.
And that is why even if you look at people who are doing very well in their lives today, they are doing well in their lives simply because they have thought different from everyone else.
Wow.
And we have used boxers for an example. As an example, and I've been touching on this to say there are some boxers who had a very bad childhood. But as they grew up and they realized that the world is in their hands, they made up their minds to say, I'm going to start thinking differently about myself. I'm going to start seeing myself differently. And, I look at Mike Tyson, how puffed up and motivated he was as a young boxer. He always believed that he was the greatest. Every time they interviewed him after a fight, Mike Tyson will say things you never thought a guy like Mike Tyson would say. It's like his speeches were rehearsed. It's like he had notes that he would memorize so that he can tell people he's the greatest. He would quote names, or Smamman did this and did that. I am greater than that. Wow. He would say, Smamman did this. I am great. Mike Tyson was one of those people that I would look at and say, a lot of people expect him not to be very good at speaking because he had lisps. He couldn't speak really, really well. Yeah. So they would expect him to be reserved when it comes to speaking. He would be shy. But he trained himself. Look at Muhammad Ali. Yeah. Muhammad Ali was so talkative and so that even when he's fighting, his reactions when he's fighting, and that's what would normally discourage the people he's fighting with, because they would realize that they can't break his spirit. Now, if you look at people who are really, really successful, one of the biggest things about them is that it's not easy to crush their spirits. How many people say negative things about people who are powerful? Do you see them depressed and saying, today I don't want to talk, I don't want to show up in public? No, they show up anyways. You'll have half the country talking bad about the president of the country. He will still go out there and speak as if all of you love him. And that is the power of knowing that as a person, you can control what happens to you without allowing what other people say to you to dictate how you feel and how you end up doing things. People will always have an opinion. Whether you do good, people will find a way to say something bad. It doesn't matter what you do. So you need to make up your mind as a person to say, I'm going to create a mindset that allows me to think bigger. I'm going to create a mindset that allows me to say, I don't have limits unless those limits are put by me. In actual fact, I do not have any limits. And this becomes important because if that is the case in your life, that means you will always have what I call resilience. You will have mental strength, resilience. You'll be able to know that in the field that I'm in, there are some of the greatest soccer players that you've seen in the past. Yes, very humble people. But if you were to sit and ask them how they feel about their ability in the soccer field, they'll tell you, I'm the greatest.
Yeah, true.
And sometimes you look at that and say, this person has pride. This person is puffing themselves up. They thinking they are better than anyone. Well, look, some of them are not even comparing themselves with other people. They are just simply saying, I am good at what I do.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want, but I'm good at what I do. And that's the mentality that we need to have. To say, I'm the best. No one else is like you. Even if you have a twin, that twin is not you. So, truth be told, you are the greatest because you are the only version of you in this world.
Awesome.
There's no one else that's going to come and replace you.
Yes, sir.
You are you and you are you alone. There will never be another Mr. Sipiri.
Yes, sir.
Never.
Never.
It's you. And when you are gone, you are gone. No one else will come and say, I am. It's not like a job post where if you go or resign or decide to leave, people are going to fill that position. This position cannot be filled.
Cannot be replaced.
God made sure that you are the only person that can act in the role that you are in. So guess what? You need to always make sure that you are the best version of yourself. The best version of yourself where God has put you.
Nice.
So guess what? You are the greatest.
I'm the greatest.
In where God has put you. And that's the mindset you need to have. You wake up in the morning and say, I'm the greatest. There's never been any other Tsepo Mohapi before in history.
Never.
And this Tsepo Mohapi is the greatest.
Yes, sir. Wow.
And you go out there and act like you are the greatest, and behave like you are the greatest, think like you are the greatest, and even speak like you are the greatest.
Like you're doing now. Yay.
So some of the people, inboxed me and they said, so how do I begin to start thinking the right way? How do I begin to start thinking such that I am able? And it's hard because a lot of people mentally, to tell you the honest truth,
Yes,
we don't have the right mental strength for us to counter negative thoughts when they are there. And one of the tools that I believe are very powerful, even psychological, is the ability to speak. You realize that you can change how you think by how you talk about yourself. I take moments in my day where I'm alone.
Yeah.
And I look at myself in the mirror and I tell myself things I probably will not say here on radio because you will think this guy thinks he's little Jesus. But nonetheless, the things that I say to myself when I'm alone and I look at myself in the mirror, you need to begin to have things that are good. Sometimes even if you need to write them down and memorize them and say them every single day to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it might look like you are wasting your time, but I'm telling you, over a period in time, you will realize there are certain patterns, thinking patterns that are beginning to change about you. There are certain things you used to think about that you might not necessarily think about anymore because your mind is slowly adapting to the words of your mouth. So the words of your mouth are very important because the words of your mouth can change how you think as a person. So I just want to clarify that to the listeners to say one of the biggest tools that you can use as a person to try and change the way you think is to speak well about yourself. The second thing that you need to be careful of as a person is to check your environment. Never spend too much time with people that do not bring light in your path in life. Never spend too much time with people that do not know how to say good things to you as a person. You cannot afford, you only have one lifetime. You cannot afford to say part B or round 2 because there's only one round in all of this.
Yes, sir.
You cannot afford to risk putting your life in the hands of people that don't know how to even speak positive. You spend time with people that are always complaining, always worried about not getting things, always thinking life is not good for them. Lale kopana ela le dumedisana, dumela o kae. Hey, ke siame mara wa itse botshelo ke botshelo bo boima bo difficult. That's not the right kind of talking. That is not the right. If people say, how are you? Now people who know me, they'll tell you. If you say, how am I? I'm not going to say, I'm always excellent.
Yes, sir.
I'm always, and I'm not apologetic about it. I am always excellent, and I'm going to remain excellent.
Yes.
Whether good or bad things happen to me, I will remain excellent. Why? Because it's a mental state that I chose to have and maintain in my life because that's the only way I am able to achieve what I can achieve.
Powerful.
Because if I become negative, you know, people who are influential and people who are powerful can tell when they speak to a person that this person is a very negative person. Because how a person speaks, you know, you can even tell by how a person sits, the way they sit on a chair.
Okay.
That tells you, I mean, some of you have probably done interviews before.
Yes.
One of the things they look at in an interview, firstly, it's eye contact. To say, do you make eye contact? Because if you don't make eye contact, it probably says you are not an assertive person. You are very passive. You don't stand your ground. You don't have a backbone.
Yeah.
How you sit can say this person is either lazy, this person is not energetic. There's a lot of things you can say about the non-verbal communication of a person. And those things are things that normally give away what we think that we are not telling people. So if you want to know how a person thinks, you must watch how they act. The things they say, the things they do, then you know exactly how they think. But for you to alter and change the way you are thinking, all you need to do is to change how you talk and change the types of environments that you spend your time in. And this becomes important because when you do that, you are allowing yourself an opportunity to create and shape your life. Shape your life such that it reflects what you desire as a person. It reflects what you want as a person. Now, why am I saying this to you? I am saying this because your mindset creates an environment around you.
Yes, sir.
And that environment, you can call it energy around you. You know, some people says you have an aura around you as a person. There are people bowing when you meet them. and come across them, already when you are just around them, for some reason you have energy.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you are even happy, because that's the type of energy that that person carries. Now it shows you that the energy that you carry as a person has the ability to even affect the people around you. So now it's your duty as a person to generate the kind of energy that even when you walk in a room where you are about to bring a proposal to people who are about to give you money for a business, when you walk in, by virtue of just walking in, when they sense that energy, already some of them are sold. They don't even need to hear what you have to say. They just like the fact that this person who just walked in carries a level of energy I can work with.
Wow.
So you can even convince people before you even talk. When they look at you, they can see the energy, they can see your smile, they can see the way you hold yourself to say, this person, he's the kind of thinker that I can work with. And you can sit sometimes and say, how did they know how I'm thinking? No, you know how a person thinks by how they act. It's as easy as that. A person acts the way they think, and that's how you will always know what a person is thinking. Sometimes you can just sit and keep quiet and not talk to a person and just observe. You will literally know what goes on in that person's brain.
Wow. This is powerful.
And this becomes important, especially for young people who are still going out there looking for opportunities, who are still going out there looking to step into platforms that can benefit their lives, that you need to create the right kind of mindset. I don't need to have you open your mouth before I know the kind of energy you carry. I can feel that energy when I'm around you. And when you get to a point of your life where your energy becomes so evident and so visible that even the people around you can sense to say, you know what, whenever you are around, no, we feel alive.
Yes.
There's just something about you. You walk into a room and there's just energy in the room. You know, there are people like that. And it's not because they carry anything special. It's because that person has trained their mind to get to a point where there is so much positivity that they don't even have to try hard to think positive.
Wow.
The power of your mind has the ability to create an environment around you. And that environment is energy. And it attracts similar things. If it's negative energy, it will attract negative things. Have you ever noticed that when people go through pain at the same time, it's easy for them to be friends?
True.
Because the energy is the same, it attracts.
Channel you another.
If we are happy at the same time, it's easy for us to attract. Why? We have the same energy. If we are grieving together at the same time, it's easy for us to attract. You know, I was looking at the funeral over the weekend.
Yes.
There are two ladies who are, one is current and the one is ex to the guy who passed away. And the way they were interacting with each other, you realize that grief has an ability to make people connect.
Wow.
You know, I'm not making an assumption here. Maybe, you know, they connected long before these whole things happen. But the fact of the matter is that whenever people are grieving and they're going through pain together, that connects them. Because they share the same type of energy. Now, the question we need to always ask ourselves is that, what energy do I carry? Because the energy that I carry will attract things that are similar to what I carry. So a good mindset will always attract good things.
Whew. Wow.
So sometimes we complain and say, you know, good things come to those who wait. Now, let me tell you different. My quote is different. Good things don't come to those who wait. Good things come to those with the right mindset.
Wow.
You can sit and wait while you mope and think negative and talk bad about yourself. You are not going to experience good things.
Never.
And you can convince yourself and say, God's timing, this and that. All I'm saying to you, change your mindset.
Yes, sir.
You will God's timing until you are gray, waiting for God's timing, because your mindset is not okay. Get that mindset right, and you will realize that a lot of things will begin to happen for you. There are people who will just automatically prefer to work with you simply because of what they are picking up when they are around you. So this is important because your mindset is your biggest limitation. It will limit you. It will, and a lot of times you will see that people will always manifest things in their lifetime, but their knowledge is what reduces what they can manifest. That is why I was talking about mental diet last week. To say you need to feed yourself the right kind of stuff. Do you want to be an engineer? Feed yourself with engineering stuff. Do you want to be a medical doctor? Feed yourself with medical stuff. You can't be a pastor if you don't read the Bible. You can't. You need to feed yourself the kind of stuff that will make you excel in that space.
The right stuff.
So what am I trying to say? Feed yourself things that are in line with what you want to achieve. You cannot be a radio presenter if you do not learn and see and watch how other presenters are doing it out there.
Definitely.
You can't. That is why I always say in life, you must have 3 levels of people in your life. The first level is a level of people who are doing less than you.
Okay.
So they are not doing as bad. So that is to remind you that you must always remain humble. Because you are where you are, it's not because you are lucky. It's because it's God's grace.
It's not by chance.
And it's not because you are special. It's God's grace. Now it will remind you that there are people who are still where you used to be.
Yeah.
You need to remain humble because you might actually go back there if you are not careful. Now you need to also have people at your same level. The people at your same level are the ones that you challenge each other. You challenge each other to say, we can do better. You know, those are the people that you relate to because they speak the same language. You charge yourself up with those people. When you spend time with those people, you have what they call light bulb moments where there's great ideas coming up. There's new ideas coming up. You are always excited about stuff. They're at your level. You talk the same language. Whenever you are with those people, it's like you sharpen one another because you are at the same level. Now, the last level is people who are doing better than you. Those people who are doing better than you, those ones are useful because those are the ones that are showing you to say where you are, that's not all that the world has to offer. There is more to it than what you are walking. Now that also keeps you humble because it makes you realize that at any point in time, if I think I'm doing well, there's always someone or there's always people that are doing better than you. Now, even if you have money, you have 10 million in the bank account, you are going to remain humble. You know why? Because there's people with 100 million. There's people with 1 billion. There's people with 10 billion, 50 billion. So it will keep you humble to say, hey, don't get carried away. There's people doing much better than you. So it becomes important because it allows you. And it shifts, it gives you that mental shift where you are able to adjust yourself. So invest in growing and developing yourself to the level of your imaginations so that you can maintain what you manifest in your life. You will maintain what you are manifesting if you keep yourself developed in those areas, because when you do that, you allow yourself a balanced mental state. But remember, keep gratitude in your mind and your heart all the time. It will charge you up. It's like new energy. It's refreshing and it gives you new strength. Thank you so much.
Wow. It's a very jalo Monday motivation ya letsatsi la gompieno rena re happy once again ra leba thata re tla kopana mo manteng yo tlang re
Thank you, sir.
khotetse thata
Much appreciated.
re tsaba go shebile le ko live ko Facebook ba re ba itubetse thata gore ba rotleditse mo tsatsing la gompieno.
Thank you, sir.
Ra tsaba go nyesa firiseng pila